The average Gen Z graduate has $22,000 in debt before even starting their career. But here's what's truly disturbing. It's not an accident. It's by design. What if I told you that becoming poor isn't just about economic circumstances, but about inheriting a poverty mindset deliberately programmed into an entire generation? Think about this for a moment. In 1970, a summer job could pay for an entire year of college tuition. Today, that same summer job won't even cover your textbooks. In 1970, the average home cost $42,600. Adjusted for inflation, that's about $244,700 in today's money. The average home price now? Over $512,000. These aren't just numbers. This is the reality Gen Z was born into. We hear the criticism constantly. They're entitled. They're lazy. They spend too much on avocado toast and luxury coffee. But underneath all this noise lies a profound philosophical question. What happens to a generation when the fundamental rules of financial success they were promised simply don't apply anymore? A 25-year-old named Maddie puts it bluntly. Everyone's going to be in debt their whole life. I don't want to be, but I have this feeling that no matter what I do, no matter how hard I work, there's always going to be some kind of debt that I have. This isn't just economic struggle. This is existential anxiety, a crisis of meaning. Today, we're going beyond the numbers to understand not just why Gen Z is the poorest generation, but what this means for the human spirit, for hope, and most importantly, for the mindset needed to break free from this engineered trap. The ancient Stoic philosopher Seneca once wrote, "Poverty is not the possession of little, but the absence of much." This profound statement reveals something crucial. Poverty isn't just a financial condition. It's a state of mind, a perception of lack. And herein lies our philosophical lens for today. What if Gen Z's greatest poverty isn't in their bank accounts, but in their belief systems about what's possible? The system hasn't just robbed them of economic opportunity. It has systematically attempted to rob them of hope, of agency, of the very belief that financial freedom is attainable. But as Viktor Frankl taught us after surviving the Nazi concentration camps, everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. This is where our journey begins. Not with despair, but with awareness, because awareness is the first step toward transformation. What was once a clear path to financial stability has been fundamentally altered without consent or warning. When baby boomers were in their 20s, they had 86% more purchasing power than Gen Z does today. Let that sink in. That means if you walked into a boomer's house when they were 25, yes, an actual house at 25, not a myth, and removed 17 out of every 20 items they owned, that's what Gen Z can afford in comparison. The data paints a stark picture. Since the 1970s, college tuition has increased over 2,500%, after adjusting for inflation. Meanwhile, wages have only increased by an inflation-adjusted 26%. But this isn't just about numbers, it's about a betrayal of trust. Generation Z was told, go to college, get a degree, find a good job, work hard, save money, build wealth. Yet, 59% report feelings of stress and anxiety about their finances, the highest of any generation. Why? Because they followed the instructions precisely and discovered the game was rigged from the start. The social contract hasn't just been broken, it's been rewritten without consent. The first step toward freedom is acknowledging this truth, not to place blame, but to recognize you're playing a different game entirely, one that requires new rules and strategies. Stop measuring your financial progress against metrics from previous generations. Their economic reality simply doesn't exist anymore. Instead, ask yourself, What unique advantages does my generation have that previous ones didn't? Digital literacy, global connectivity, unprecedented access to information, and alternative income streams. Debt has transformed from a temporary state into a permanent identity for many in Gen Z. The TransUnion found that the average Gen Zer's debt totaled around 16% of their income by the end of 2023, significantly higher than what millennials owed at the same age. 1 in 7 Gen Z adults have already maxed out their credit cards. But here's where it gets interesting. It's not because they're recklessly spending on luxuries. According to research, Gen Z actually spends less on dining out compared to other generations, devoting just 5.5% of their income to it. The real issue? They're spending disproportionately more on necessities. 3 in 5 renters aged 18 to 25 spend more than 30% of their income on housing alone. What does this do to the human psyche? When debt becomes not just something you have, but something you are, ancient wisdom teaches us to separate our identity from our possessions or circumstances. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. When debt becomes identity, it creates a dangerous mindset loop. I am in debt, therefore I am a debtor, therefore I make financial decisions as someone who will always be in debt. This becomes self-fulfilling. Practice linguistic mindfulness. Notice how you talk about your financial situation. Are you saying, "I am in debt," or "I currently have debt that I'm working to eliminate"? This subtle shift separates circumstance from identity, creating space for change. 53% of Gen Z have a side hustle on top of their full-time job just to make ends meet. 36% of US workers are now part of the gig economy, which is growing 3 times faster than the regular workforce. While the flexibility of gig work has its benefits, it comes with a profound psychological cost: perpetual uncertainty. Without stability, long-term planning becomes nearly impossible. How do you save for retirement when you're not sure if you'll make rent next month? How do you invest in your future when you're constantly putting out financial fires in the present? This creates what psychologists call a scarcity mindset. When your brain is consumed with meeting immediate needs, it literally has less cognitive bandwidth for strategic thinking and long-term planning. Eastern philosophy teaches us about impermanence, that security is ultimately an illusion. As the Buddha taught, the root of suffering is attachment. The paradox is that by accepting instability as a feature of modern economic life, rather than fighting against it, we can actually build psychological resilience and adapt more successfully. Create what I call stability anchors, small, achievable financial habits that you can control regardless of external circumstances. Even saving $5 a week builds the neural pathways of financial control. It's not about the amount, it's about proving to yourself that you have agency despite external chaos. Here's something rarely discussed. Many Gen Z were born into poverty, and in America, poverty tends to be hereditary. In 2005, at the height of Gen Z births, those with income below the poverty line had a birth rate more than double that of those with incomes at 200% above the poverty level. In a country with decreasing social mobility and fewer safety nets than other developed nations, being born into poverty often means staying there. This creates not just financial inheritance, but mental inheritance. Beliefs about money, scarcity, and possibility are passed down just as surely as genetics. The ancient concept of fate versus free will is relevant here. Are you destined to repeat the financial patterns you inherited? Philosophy would argue no. Consciousness gives us choice. As Jean-Paul Sartre said, we are our choices. The awareness that your financial beliefs may be inherited rather than chosen is immensely powerful. It means you can examine them objectively and decide which to keep and which to discard. Create a financial belief inventory. Write down everything you believe about money, wealth, rich people, and financial possibility. Then ask of each belief, is this true? Is this serving me? Where did I learn this? Would I choose to believe this if I were starting fresh today? Despite everything we've discussed, there are seeds of hope. Wages for 16 to 24-year-olds rose 8.6% in 2024, compared to 5.2% for the general population. The digital economy has created unprecedented opportunities for those who know how to leverage them. But the greatest opportunity isn't external, it's internal. When a system is broken, those who thrive are those who stop playing by the system's rules. They create their own. Spencer Kammerman, 25, has already been hired and fired by 2 technology companies. After 8 months of searching and hundreds of applications, he says, "It feels like the odds are against us. It's been hard to get off the ground." He represents millions, talent, a degree, motivation, yet rejected by a system that promised to reward him. But he carries something the system can't take away, the decision to keep trying. And that in itself is an act of silent rebellion. This is the crucial mindset shift, recognizing reality without surrendering to it. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control and accept what we cannot. In the words of Epictetus, make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. The system may be broken, but your response to it is entirely within your control. Create value outside the traditional system. Identify skills you can monetize directly without corporate gatekeepers. Build multiple income streams, no matter how small initially. Remember, financial freedom doesn't come from a single high-paying job anymore. It comes from diversity and flexibility. We began by acknowledging a harsh truth. Gen Z was born into a system designed to keep them financially dependent and psychologically defeated. But awareness of the trap is the first step to escaping it. The poverty that threatens you most deeply isn't in your bank account. It's in your mind. It's the belief that you're powerless, that the game is rigged beyond recovery, that financial freedom is for others, but not for you. The system wants you to believe this. Your debt makes others wealthy. Your resignation serves those who benefit from the status quo. But here's the transformative truth. While previous generations measure wealth by possession, your generation has the opportunity to redefine wealth entirely, as freedom, as purpose, as the ability to direct your own life regardless of external circumstances. The system might be broken, but you don't have to be broken by it. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. The very challenges that seem designed to defeat you can become the forge that tempers your resolve, sharpens your creativity, and ultimately leads to a prosperity previous generations can't even imagine. You weren't just born into financial difficulty. You were born into a moment of profound transformation, where old rules are dissolving and new possibilities are emerging for those courageous enough to see them. What belief about money has been limiting you the most? What financial truth have you inherited that you're now questioning? Share your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one, and your insight might be exactly what someone else needs to hear right now. If this different perspective on Gen Z and wealth resonated with you, subscribe to Millionaire Brain for more content that transforms how you think about money, success, and what's truly possible for your life. And if you found value in this video, hitting that like button helps others discover this message too. Remember, your financial future isn't written in stone. It's written in the choices you make starting today.